Welcome to Mini Story Time. So our story today is all about Mr. Worry. So shall we see what's in our story? Let's have a look. Poor Mr. Worry. Oh dear, it's raining. Whatever happened? He worried about it. If it rained, he worried that his roof was going to leak. Oh dear. If it didn't rain, he worried that all the plants in the garden was going to die. Oh no. If he set off shopping, he worried that all the shops would be shut when he got there. And when the shops weren't shut, he worried that he was going to spend too much money. And when he got home with his shopping, he worried that he'd even left something behind, or that something had fallen out of his basket on the way home. Oh dear, he does worry a lot. And when he got home and discovered that he hadn't left anything behind and that nothing had fallen out of his basket on the way home, he worried that he bought too much. And then he worried about where he was going to put it all. Life was just one long worry. Poor Mr. Worry. You see him? What colour is Mr. Worry? He is. He's blue. And what colour is Mr. Worry's nose? That's right. The same as your lips. Red. One day, he went for a walk. He was worried that he might walk too far and not be able to get home. But on the other hand, he was worried that if he didn't walk enough, he wouldn't get enough exercise. He hurried along, worrying. Or you could say he worried along, hurrying. He met Mr. Bump. "I'm very worried about you," he said. And you see Mr. Bump, he's got bandages on. I wonder if he falls over a lot. "Why is that?" asked Mr. Bump. "I'm worried that one of these days you might hurt yourself," he said. "Don't worry your head about that," replied Mr. Bump, and went off, tripping over his feet. Mr. Worry went on. You see Mr. Bump falling over. Do you fall over? I fall over all the time. He met Mr. Noisy. "I'm worried about you," he said. What colour's Mr. Noisy? His is red. Well done. "Why's that?" asked Mr. Noisy. "I'm worried that you might lose your voice," said Mr. Worry. "Don't you worry your head about that," said Mr. Noisy, and went off. Clump, clump, clump. Mr. Worry went on. He met Mr. Greedy. "I'm very worried about you," he said. What colour's Mr. Greedy? Pink. "Why's that?" asked Mr. Greedy. "I'm worried that you might eat too much and be sick," explained Mr. Worry. "Me?" replied Mr. Greedy. "Eat too much? Impossible," and went off. For lunch, Mr. Worry went on. He met a wizard. "Hello," said the wizard. "How are you?" "I'm Mr. Worry." "And you look it," commented the wizard. "Tell you what," he went on, for he was a helpful sort of wizard. "Why don't you go home and write down everything that you were worried about, and I'll make sure that none of these things ever happen." That's a good idea, isn't it? Writing down everything you are worried about, or maybe drawing a picture. He smiled. Can you smile? Show me your teeth. And then you won't have anything to worry about, will you? Mr. Worry smiled. It was the first time he'd smiled in a long time. In fact, it was the first time he'd smiled this year. He hurried home in great excitement. When he got home, he sat down to write out all the things that worried him. Every single thing. The list was long. And then he went to bed and had the best night's sleep he'd had in years. You see him snoring. The following morning, the wizard came around to collect Mr. Worry's list. My goodness me, he said when he saw the size of the list. However, he said, leave it with me. I'll go off and I'll make sure none of these things ever happen. And off he went. Nothing to worry about now, he called over his shoulder. Nothing at all. Mr. Worry sighed a big relief. You see the wizard? Look at that list. That is a long list. That day was the first day in Mr. Worry's life that he didn't have a single thing to worry about. And the next day, and the day after that, and the day after that, on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, Mr. Worry didn't have a care in the world. But on Monday morning, he was a worried man. Oh dear! What do you think was worrying him? Can you guess? He went to see the wizard. Oh dear, said the wizard, when he saw him standing by the doorstep. What's worrying you? I'll tell you, said Mr. Worry. Do you know what it is? I'm worried because I don't have anything to worry about anymore. And he went home to worry about not having anything to worry about. Oh, that is a brilliant story. So if you're feeling worried about something, what have we learned? That we need to write it down or draw a picture and show it to our grown-ups. Well, thank you very much for watching me this Friday morning. And I'll see you all soon. Bye-bye.